Steady Ed.
Steady Ed. So he founded the first disc golf course. That was in 1976 at Oak Grove, California. He founded the PDGA. He founded Disc Golf Association.
When did he patent the basket?
He patented the basket in 1976.
5 or 6?
It was 1975, because 1976 was the year that the Oak Grove went in. And it was called a disc golf pole hole.
Hole.
A hole.
Going back to our conversation from last week.
Yeah, still called it a hole because he really wanted it to be golf, I think. He wanted it to be thought of as golf, or at least an alternative to.
It, again, not to rehash all of that or to get you off of where you're headed with this, but it's interesting to me because it brings a different light to it to me when the founder is wanting to call it this. I thought it was sort of adopted by the people.
Like the people created disc golf.
Right, but if it's the founder, I'm more flexible. I find myself more flexible.
Give him a little more credit, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's he created one of the most, for so many of us, and certainly everyone watching, we think one of the best sports no one knows about.
One of the best games of all time.
It's so amazing.
I love it.
And so I'll give him that latitude then, for sure.
The disc golf pole hole.
Okay. Took a week to fix that.
The first ever disc golf specific disc was called the Innova Eagle. Nothing like the modern day Eagle that we all know as a 7-speed disc. It's now known as the Arrow. They retooled it, or they had to get it reapproved by the PDGA when they renamed it.
So these are some of the key things that happened early that really turned the tide.
Put disc golf onto the course that it's on now.
Right.
That kind of developed the sport. That piece of technology, the Innova Eagle, now known as the Arrow, changed the game completely because these guys were throwing flimsy frisbees. This is a 180-gram disc all of a sudden. Now we have disc golf, not frisbee golf. It's disc golf. And that was over 40 years ago now.
With the ability to actually control the flight. I can't remember the old, is it a lot of hyzering with that big beach frisbee? I mean,
yeah,
it must have thrown at a full angle, almost bending over just to get it to go straight.
They were. There's some retro footage of some of the original World
I
Championships.
can imagine. I'd love to see it.
Bent all the way over. It's literally coming out on almost a 90-degree from the ground. Completely vertical.
Your longevity in the sport with the back would be 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's especially now when they're trying to reach the distances that they can. I mean, certainly you couldn't do it in that sort of a style.
No, not even close. The first ever high-speed disc was the Innova Destroyer. That was the first disc to break that 11-speed mark and be like a 12-speed disc. They didn't have flight numbers back then, so this was the first like wide rim. Maybe not the first wide rim driver because they still had the Wraith and some other discs ahead of that, like.
But they were figuring it out. They were figuring out
that they could widen the rim and make it sharper, because like the Eagle and the Monster and those things were coming out beforehand.
Yeah, it's really brilliant. I know that so much credit goes to the innovators, early innovators, and it's Dave
Dunapace.
Yes.
He's the Innova.
Yes, I see him on the commercials every now and then, and that makes me feel good. I like seeing him. Anyone that can be so impactful into anything. It doesn't have to just be sport. It could be anything in life. You have reverence for that person that they can have such a vision. And where did that vision come from? It's almost like songwriters. Songwriters are like, how in the world did you come up with that incredible melody?
Yes.
Well, I just woke up and it was there. I'd love to find out if Dave woke up one day and it was there.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I don't know where it came from, but I have a better idea for us. Mm-hmm. And boom, the magic's born. Really.
To see the glide out of a frisbee, yeah.
Well, that's why we're all here. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of reasons, but I think we all can come together and unite on the fact that seeing a disc fly the way you intended it to fly or hoped it would come out of your hand, and then that one magical moment where you're just, the whole world sort of stops and you're just watching this disc. It's true.
It's so satisfying.
You're not thinking about work, you're not thinking about home, you're not thinking about anything in that moment but that disc sailing away from you in exactly the way you saw it.
Yeah.
That is magical. It is so addicting. So addicting.
Yeah.
So anyway, I derailed us already.
Okay.
In how it drives disc sales. From my perspective as someone who's a novice in the sport, and asking someone who's been in the sport for some time now and who owns a beautiful disc golf store here in Phoenix, the influence that I see with, well, let's just pick on Isaac Robinson since he just won the Worlds.
Okay.
All of a sudden, I'm curious about that plastic. I'm curious about his new mid-range he's got coming out. I'm curious about what he's throwing off the tee in sort of that speed that I like, that 9 to 11 speed max.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, he obviously putters are so personal. And that's the one thing you have the most of in probably every disc golf store in the country, I would assume. No,
drivers
Really?
and mid-range. I sell a lot more drivers and mid-ranges because those are the ones that people want more than their putters.
Okay.
I don't sell as many putters, and also putters go missing a lot less. You're more likely to lose a driver that you're throwing 400 feet rather than a putter that you're putting at the basket every round.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't sell as many putters in here as I do drivers.
Then tell me why there's so many putters.
Well, like you said, it's personal. Everybody's got a push or a spin putt or somewhere in between.
Yeah.
So some people have different angles that they like to release a disc. I've met people that putt with slammers, and I think that's insane. I cannot believe there are people that putt with slammers or bergs. Like, that takes so much effort to do. But then I see people do it, and it works for them. They've got this really, like, I've seen people, like a friend of mine putts with a slammer. He got this super crazy nose up. He almost leans the disc all the way back and spins it, and it kind of just lifts up and goes clink right in the center. I told him to stop putting with it up until he beat me, and I was like, well, no, you should probably keep doing that. It's working for you. It's personal to how you putt. So, of course, all these discs do something ever so slightly different. So some putters are going to feel better in the hand and feel like they come out cleaner and more precise for you, where you actually have control of the thing.
I found that to be true.
Yes, sometimes when you release a putter out of your hand, you don't feel confident. It's like you don't have control over this disc. I need to try something else.
Yeah. Yeah, and so to get back to the influence that the tour players really do have on the marketplace in terms of pushing plastic out, does exist. We all want to throw. We all want to throw like the top players. We all think if we buy their disc, it puts us one step closer to that goal.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some truth in that, but there's also there's also the reality that there's a big difference in body builds. There's a big difference in years doing it. There's a big difference in natural talent. There's a big, it go on and on and on. So it's interesting, and I understand why, from a business perspective, companies, disc manufacturers want the best players representing them and throwing their plastic and their molds and helping them maybe even create. When you get into discraft and you get world champions, and Ricky's had probably a lot to do with that, Slammer, and obviously Macbeth has had a ton to do with discraft and Athena and all some of their stuff, and Paige, some of their stuff.
Well, they make the discs look good.
They do, but not the players. Or are you saying the players make
do? The players.
I'm thinking aesthetics. You're saying the players, when they're throwing it, make the disc look incredible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we all are under the myth that if we just have that in our hand, we can go to our park and we can do what we just saw.
Make it look,
We can. I know I can do it. I feel it. I saw what he did. I know I can do it. It's just not that easy. But I can see where there's a real loyalty, and I don't really know in sport where there's, in tennis, maybe there's a certain tennis racket that you prefer over another, or it has to do with the player that's using it as your influence, and I'm sure that exists.
Mm-hmm.
In hockey, where I have a background in hockey, I know there used to be a lot more stick options to play with, and now there are fewer. But if Patrick Kane was using a stick and was one of the best players for a very long time, he wanted that stick. His name was on it. You can get this curve, the whole thing. It meant something, and they sold an absolute ton of them because of that. So there's huge value in having the right players using your equipment. There's no question about it. But I think my reason for bringing it up is, at the end of the day, even if I'm online and I'm looking at the same exact things that they're throwing, I don't know what that feels like. I don't know if what that reaction is going to be. I don't have anyone guiding me necessarily to say that, well, look, hey, your arm speed, let's keep you in check. That your arm speed is here, so that probably isn't going to be the best, or at least it's not going to be very much fun to go out there and try and throw that around.
Yeah, you don't need a force, you need a buzz.
Right, something like that. And that's sort of the transition that I feel that bricks and mortar, even though everything in our world seems to be convenience, right? Two clicks, and we're that stuff's coming to my house, right. Man. There's nothing better than that. And even in the business that I own, it's 2 clicks and I'll have stuff to you in a couple of days. That's just the way it is. So we've embraced that. But in this sport, I really think it's imperative that you have this thing in your hand, and I'm talking to someone like you. Now, I'm lucky enough, or you're not going to be able to play with all your customers, but I'm lucky enough to have played with you for a few rounds. Yeah. More than a few, probably. And you know immediately if something comes in and I'm going to like it or not, because you even set it aside. You're going to love this disc. And I don't hesitate, because you know my arm speed, you know what I'm capable of, you know the way I like to play the game in Arizona, which is going to be different than maybe someone plays the game in North Carolina. Oh, absolutely. Or even up in Flagstaff. Yeah. So that has, to me, and I hope the manufacturers hear this, and I know they understand it, but you are to me, the ultimate in keeping this game going forward. Guys in your position are more important to the manufacturer, I believe, than even any of the players on tour. Now, there's no one that's making their products look better. We fully agree on that. But at the end of the day, if I'm buying that product and I go and throw it because they made it look so good and it doesn't throw that great for me, I'm not exactly happy about that. I'm out 20, 25, whatever it is. And I've still got that gap maybe in my bag. So, but we're in an extremely unique sport where we have so much selection. I mean, there's 3,000 discs in here at least, and they all fly slightly different. And you're right, we got to cater to people's games. So when people come in here and they need something in their game, and I've never seen them play, it becomes an interview process. I need to understand what you're throwing now. How does it fly for you? Do you like to throw forehand or backhand? What discs do you have? How many discs do you have? How long have you been playing? Do you have any other athletic background, like you for hockey? If they have volleyball background, well, that's kind of tough to translate because there's no jumping in disc golf. This is all momentum that you're trying to create right here in your torso and your hips. Right. Well, right. And so when someone comes in and they need help finding a disc that's specific to what's going to help them grow into the sport, I only sell products that I believe in. So I'm going to point them towards something that I know is going to be right for that player. Well, tell me, is this a good analogy? If you go skiing, before you buy a rent, you fill out a form. It's almost like going to the doctor. I'm a novice. I weigh this much. I'm this tall. It's this whole check. And then the person who on the other end is you, glance over it, you know immediately where you're going to pull. Okay, they need this flex a ski or this long a ski. They're going to need this long a pole. They're going to need this tight or loosing of bindings. All of that matters in my safety and my enjoyment. Yeah, absolutely. And it seems to me like disc golf almost needs that sheet when someone walks in. Where are you at? Yeah. Well, what's the arm speed? You know, how flexible are you? How far do you want to go with it? Do you just want to enjoy it? You just want to see things float? Do you want to you want to progress.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people may just be happy with, no, there's a park that's down the street. I play with my grandson or I play with my brothers, and
Yeah.
once a week, I just want something that floats, man. I can just count on day in and day out when I get the chance. So, yeah, it's interesting.
It's the same thing.
But that it is. But I can't buy that online.
No, the online market is strange because they've got the biggest selection out there, but you don't get to feel the thing, and you don't get somebody like myself to talk you into what this disc is actually going to do for you. You are at strict guesswork behind the computer screen.
They've made it a lot better. There's obviously some websites that are incredibly impressive when it comes to, you know, asking you some questions, but it's more about what are you looking for, and then we're going to help find that.
And I think OTB has that reputation. I think they've got the best descriptions. This run has a little bit of dome. It's a little flexier or a little stiffer, and here's what we expect it to do.
That's valuable.
Type of description. It's incredible that they're able to even do that much with all of these.
Right.
With their type of selection, they've got better selection than me for sure.
Right. But that just tells you how competitive that online market is. If you're not doing that, you're probably going to have to know your disc, and you may be loyal to one store or another. I don't know, but I know that there's another store here in town, and I've been in that store, and they're very helpful. But I've always found that to be the best way for me to feel confident in the decision I'm making.
To have some insight from the pro.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's kind of it. I think it's great to see the sponsorship out there. Those individuals deserve it. We want to see them on tour. We want to see their lives continue to get better and better, and our entertainment value is just going to go up with that.
Right.
But as I said last week, I don't think it should all be on these manufacturers to keep supporting this game at every single level 100% of the time.
Yeah.
We need to get local companies invested into these leagues and into these local tournaments. We need to get more companies outside nationally, like LL Bean and others.
Yeah.
That can funnel channel money in here. I'm really shocked at this point as well as they've done this year. I think especially I've seen a big step forward this year in the Disc Golf Pro Tour. That one of the clothing manufacturers or shoe manufacturers, I know in Europe they had, I want to say Merrell?
I think it was Merrell, yeah.
Yeah, I may have saw Merrell. So there you go.
Yep.
Again, an outdoors company, perfect fit. But I'd like to see, especially when you've got world champion Kristen Tatar wearing, a really attractive Nike outfit.
Mm-hmm.
Very attractive young lady, best player in the world, and she's wearing your gear. I'm going to make a phone call.
Yeah.
Someone at Nike needs to wake the heck up.
Absolutely.
And give this girl some sort of deal.
Yep.
Immediately.
Keep her wearing that stuff because she's making it look good, and she's going to sell a lot of it.
My God. And you're starting to see others on tour starting to wear some of the things that I saw her first wear. And I think it's going in the right direction. It's, hey, look, you remember more than me, but I remember, so I still played this early 80s, right? I was there. And it was a lot of, there was a lot of aroma in the air. And there was a lot of guys with a lot of facial hair and throwing the disc at the trees, and they come out of there, and it was like, oh, wow, what are you guys doing in there? And there's this game called disc golf. And we've come an absolute long way. And for the sport to grow, I guess, again, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but for the sport to grow, it does have to have some changes, and and not a lot of people are going to like that. No. And it's kind of like more of the old guard is going to like it more than the young guard.
Well, the old heads are already disgruntled in what's happening. The courses are overcrowded. They just hate it. They love the growth up until they have to deal with it.
Yeah. And that actually segues into something that I didn't mean for this to happen, but it just did. The number that the PDGA gives you when you become a member. Mm-hmm. When I initially saw it, I was very confused by that. having been playing golf for a very long time,
Yeah.
okay, I've always never, in any way, shape, or form, other than my talent, held that over anybody coming into the sport as something that, look, I've been doing this for a long time. You need to understand that fact, and
Down to the number.
it is a little bit, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful in any way, shape, or form, but let me give you an example. When you go to a league, and when I'm in the group and someone's going to keep score, they're like, "What's your number? We'll get you in here," and you rattle off your number. What happens when that number's, well, my number's 1,800,432.
Yeah.
What was that? 1,800,000.
You got a digit off a 7-digit number.
All right, we're trying to not slow the sport down in any way, shape. Let's tee off. Let's go. But I think they've got some hurdles in that respect, and I don't also the number. The other part I don't like about the number, the long term, is that if someone has a hot round and they're moving up in a tournament, and I've seen it happen several times this year on the tour, and the person that was in let's say the card or 2 cards or 3 cards above them didn't have as hot a round, but they caught him. But this person's numbers lower means they get to have that coveted position, and if it's the lead card or the chase card, or
even though they shot 8 down compared to the 12 down during that one round.
The hot round should always be rewarded
Lead card,
in my opinion.
I would agree with that.
Up.
I would totally agree with that. They earned it.
They earned it, but you also want to remember, we're growing the sport. You want the viewer to have the best possible tournament.
That's right. When you're following lead card for coverage.
Right. If that guy shot or that girl shot the best round the day before and they earn that spot, but now they don't get to be on that coverage because their number's too high compared to the other person, but that other person's got a sore elbow and didn't play very well, and they're not sure that they're going to even play the next day. I know that's an extreme case, but but you get what I'm saying. I want to see the best product possible the next day. If that person's the hottest player, I want to see that person playing against the best players above them, above her.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
The number does kind of give players a bit of an arrogance about them too, to say like, I've got the 4-digit number, I've got a 3-digit number, I've been in this sport forever, I know everything.
Well, I can just say this I can say this more than you can say this, that I've recognized in my short time into the sport that there is a little bit of, it's not like the brewing companies. I have a friend in Atlanta that owns a fantastic brewery out there. And he worked in collaboration with other breweries all around the region to help get them going. And without that help, they never would have got where they got. And now he's like number 2 brewer in Georgia. So I don't see that same collaboration from this league on one side of town and this league on another side of town, or group, or whatever.
You see the opposite. The clubs typically clash.
Why? Why is that?
It's like a turf war.
And I don't understand why they wouldn't want to all better the sport. The more people involved, the better the courses are going to get, the more options are going to come out, the better the equipment, the better the baskets, the better it all benefits. If you put the elbows up and you don't let anyone onto your turf, it's like the surfers, right? You can't come surf our wave. This is our wave. We live here, right? It's like no one wins. Nobody wins. The sport doesn't get any new great stuff coming in, talent coming.
It might be a fairly unique problem to Phoenix here because we are pretty well spread out, and a lot of the clubs developed because they didn't like some other people in the community, so they just went and developed their own club, and then they just...
Well, that's got to be everywhere then.
Well, not quite. When I went to like Texas or like Wisconsin, their disc golf communities are pretty tight and they come out to support. Doesn't really matter who's who around where. Like Wisconsin, I was so impressed with the quality and the quantity of disc golf. The amount of work that their community has put into their courses and their tournaments and the overall community of disc golf is so impressive. It was a culture shock going from here, where all the clubs hate each other, to up there, where everybody loves each other. It's like, man, why
and
don't
they're
we
working
have
together,
that?
and they're moving
Yeah,
everything forward.
improving the sport. Where
So
here,
it's regional. I've witnessed something that's regional, maybe. Okay, well, that makes sense.
and Phoenix is just a weird, it's just
tragic.
a weird case. I think it is tragic,
Especially when you've got one of the best players in the world right now from this town. Well, obviously Ricky lives here, but he's sort of a transplant, like
Yeah.
the rest of us.
Yeah,
But I'm pretty sure Anthony's from here.
he is Mesa, Arizona.
Yeah. So, unite,
Band together.
and let's, maybe Anthony sees this. Anthony,
I would
you
love
got
it.
enough on your shoulders, but you might have to burden yourself a little bit more.
Well, now here's an example of my favorite soccer player, Didier Drogba. He stopped a civil war in his home country with his influence being a professional soccer player. During the World Cup, he got down on his knees during an interview and asked the citizens to stop fighting the government just to stop the bloodshed. And then he went on after that, after stopping the civil war, to open 16 hospitals and over 20 schools.
That's incredible.
Incredible human being.
Right.
And talk about somebody with a lot of weight on their shoulders. This guy's a professional soccer player at the highest level in the most difficult league in the world. So,
yeah,
Barella,
yeah.
got some expectations here for you,
build
buddy.
some disc golf hospitals.
Let's kill the beef here in Arizona. Let's band the clubs together and start building the mecca that deserves to be here, because golf is the ultimate mecca for Arizona. It's a huge tourist attraction.
Look, like I don't know how a tournament was here and then it's not here again. I obviously going down to Vista, it's pretty obvious that you've got people coming through.
Too crowded, man.
It's too crowded. I think the course is a little dated, personally. I know there's a lot of history there, but I don't.
It's not a technical course.
It's
fun.
It's fun to play. I agree.
It's not a pro caliber course, though.
But yeah, I mean, yes, no, it's not. It's not, and it's too bad to have a city of this size, and we have 6 months of the year some of the best weather on earth.
Oh yeah,
it's incredible here. From end of January, February, March, just the best place to be for sure.
It was
April.
over 100 today, and it was gorgeous.
Yeah, it was very. Our 100 isn't everyone else's 100, but it is
Right.
hot. July and August, you don't want to be here.
Brutal.
But yeah, I was saddened by that, because I could feel it, and
Yeah.
it seems like there wasn't a good explanation either. So I hope that gets worked out. Maybe something like this conversation starts another conversation. That's all that needs to happen to fix things like that.
Well, that was kind of my long-term goal of opening this store here, was to squash beef and not be affiliated with any one club, but all clubs.
Good.
And try to get everybody involved together.
Well, that's the vibe you give out. I mean,
it's a culture. That's the culture I want to cultivate here.
It's very comfortable here. Obviously, it's hard to get rid of me some days. But to get back to the number, I think they have a problem. I think it started initially as a great idea in identifying, the core people, and that number really mattered, and it still matters. But I don't see it from again, my perspective of coming into the sport late, as something of value going forward, where, especially if it's taking a spot for someone who is having a better tournament and they can't get moved up because the other player that they're tied with has a lower number. That doesn't make any sense. And then just the fact that I don't, if I'm starting out, I've got enough worries about my form and how I look and everything else on the first tee. And then the guys I'm playing with all have these numbers on their shirts, signifying the fact that, hey, we've been doing this a long time. And I've taken guys out and golfed with people who are just starting, and I've never worn anything of, I'm not saying it's arrogance, but it's just I understand there's a lot of pride there.
Shows your tenure.
I understand the tenure of it too, but they're not seeing the whole perspective of it. I don't think they are.
Well, it's like a way to ask for praise, almost. Like, praise me for how long I've been around.
Yeah, I don't know why they're doing it, or why it has that connection with them. because I haven't been in there, so I can't speak for that. And maybe someone can going down in a future show, we can have another conversation about it, and I can learn. I can learn. You know, I can learn as to why that is. But to me, on the outside, I just don't see it as I ever throw that in someone's face that hey, look, I'm playing golf for all this amount of time, and typically I don't play with someone like yourself, but I'm going to today, and there isn't any of that ever. It's that spirit of connection. It's that spirit of enjoying the sport, enjoying the day, enjoying the camaraderie, and if it's a tournament, it's enjoying the competition aspect of the sport, and I just don't think it has a place. So
yeah, we'll grow out of it. I don't know what they would potentially replace it with, or if it just needs to be kiboshed and then we're all just members. I'm not sure how.
Yes, you're a member.
Yeah.
Period.
You're in. You're certified.
Yeah, and then you're judged on your merits.
Well, and then the rating can still stick around. You're still playing at your rating.
Yeah. Now, if they want to do something where there's an asterisk, or there's you get a star or something that makes everyone feel good, as if that transitions out, you have your name, but I'm a star.
Yeah.
I was under a certain number. If that means a lot to someone, I'm certainly not opposed to it. That's fine.
That actually does make a lot of sense to replace it with stars for every 10,000. So then you got 10 stars for that's how long you've been in the sport.
Yeah,
you've got a whole crown around your
now we got disc golf generals out there with just badges all over the place, and can't even throw because he's got so many stars on his lapel.
Accolades right? in the way.
These stars are really messing up my collar. Well, I think I've driven that point into the ground.
You said something about taking a space. Should we talk about Avery Jenkins?
At Worlds, let me tell you what they do in golf. If you win the Masters, you're invited back for life. You retire at your discretion. If you win the British Open in golf, you're invited back for life. You retire at your discretion. And we're talking about world-class athletes. And I want to believe in my heart of hearts, and I've never seen it not be this way in golf, where you play too long, because you're going to take another person's opportunity away for whatever reason. So at some point, as hard as that's got to be, as a world champion or a Masters champion or a British Open champion, to say that this is my last round. It's in your 50s, it's in your 60s, some do it in their 70s. The guy from South Africa, his name slips my mind, but he was playing into his 70s at Augusta. Arnold Palmer played into his 70s at Augusta. But we all want to see Arnie, But Arnie is technically taking a spot.
Yeah.
But no one cares. It's Arnie, And so Avery Jenkins, it was the longest running period.
Competing in the World Championships.
You brought up something that I didn't know today, because I was kind of upset about that when I heard it. I'm like, how in the world is a world champion not playing if he wants to play?
And that was actually a lot of the responses that he got after posting. Well, can't make it in today. And then a lot of the community got his back and say, what? How did you not get in?
But there's more to the story.
But there's more to the story, because registration was open for how long? It's not like it filled in 30 seconds like some of these tournaments do.
So do we know if Avery failed to register himself at the appropriate time?
He could have signed up early, because then he would have been in. If he would have signed up on time, he wouldn't have had that issue.
So there may have been something going on. Wasn't sure if he'd be able to play. Finds out he's able to play.
It might have slipped.
Now you're on a wait list.
Yeah, now you're waitlisted, and none of the 950s dropped.
Okay.
They were happy to donate their money to Isaac.
Well, that's a different story then. I have less compassion for that, but
that's how golf works, with John Daly being able to play if he wins. Sorry, who did you reference earlier?
John Daly?
Well,
was the last one in when he won the first major. His first tournament that he ever won was a major. And it changed his whole life. But he got in. He was the last on the wait list, and he got in the day before the tournament.
So someone dropped and he got in.
Yeah.
And then won it.
Unprecedented.
That's insane.
But what's exciting about disc golf is that it's getting deeper and deeper and deeper. That 100th player, there's not going to be a huge difference, let's just say on the driving range, warming up between the number 1 player and the 100th player. They're both going to look absolutely awesome.
Pristine.
They're going to
ready to play.
Release. Everything's looking good, smooth. You're not going to be able to tell that 100 player separation between them on the range. It's what happens, between the ears and on that course that really separates them.
Mental game, that's right.
But the point is that the talent pool's getting deeper and deeper and deeper in disc golf, which is fantastic. It has a lot to do with Macbeth. It has a lot to do with these contracts from these manufacturers.
Yep.
These kids are now able to go home and say to their dad, I want to play disc golf. Dad's going to look up online, well, what's the top disc golfer making? Holy shit.
There's potential.
Pardon my French.
There's a real career there.
I had no idea.
Uh-huh.
Now, for that to sustain, a lot of things have to keep happening right. And so far they are.
Well, and it feels like we've hit a few explosions in golf. Like 2017, there was a big explosion. That's when I started playing, and then the number broke that 100,000 PDGA number mark, and that was a big accolade for the PDGA and the community itself. And then with COVID, my goodness, it went crazy with the amount of disc golfers to come out and blow up the sport and come out and support, throw money into it, and let these manufacturers grow and continue to do what they're doing. So they're definitely spearheading. They're in the right direction, like you said. But we're in that lull right now we had this huge growth, and now we're kind of plateaued a little bit. We might see in another 2 years another big spurt of players. Players discover something happens in the community, a new disc comes out, somebody wins a world championship with a crazy shot that reaches a bunch of people from ESPN. All of a sudden, you've got another growth in the sport. It's going to keep growing. It's just kind of it's streaky, just like golf. Sometimes it grows in fast and then kind of plateaus. It'll have another blip here in a couple of years.
Well, that's where I think the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and again, kudos to Jeff Spring and everyone, amazing job in 2023, even better than 2022.
A big step up from 2022, actually.
The live has been a big component in that, but I've also recognized the aesthetics and the optics at those courses from a business owner wanting to put my product on some of those courses this year far exceeded last year.
When it's well manicured like it has been,
I love
you're
it.
going to pay more money for that, aren't you?
Yes, there's value there. Look, that looks good. That fits with what I feel my brand brings in terms of quality. So super important where they're going. Now, to me, now I'm sure it has to do with lack of resources right now and probably lack of staffing and all of that. But when the tournament's coming to town, I'll give you an example. I went down to the All-Star this year in Tucson, Arizona. I went and played around at 2 of the courses prior to going to watch the tournament.
Yeah.
And no one I played with, and I played with 8 different people in the 2 different courses, knew it was even in town. And these were disc golfers.
Wow.
Yeah. And they were good disc golfers. That's this week. And I thought to myself, okay, they're missing the local connection. They're looking at this national to-do list. They're missing the local connection to build the sport so that the next year it's going to be a lot easier for them. And so to me, having some marketing background, people want to see the long drive. And if they could do something that draws attention, like for instance, if there's a football game, if it's a college football game, if it's a NFL game, I would love to see Ricky at a Cardinals game or Burrell at a Cardinals game or Yuli at a Cardinals game with a basket on one side and them on the other, and they're just chucking them in as sort of a halftime type of thing to promote the game or to promote an event that's coming. Hey, disc golf is in this town, it's growing. These are 3 tour players, there's a world champion, blah, 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 blah. And you have this thing, and then you have giveaways, and you throw discs around to the audience, and you know what I mean?
Yes.
There's just a lot of ways to be creative, to grow the sport without that bubble, without being in that bubble. And
Yeah.
it seems to me like they're coming into these tournaments without doing sort of any, maybe there's signage.
Well, I think they do need to hire somebody on to maybe bring it to the town.
It almost seems like they should be 2 weeks ahead of time or
Yes.
a month ahead of time.
What does the Euro Tour, what does the European Open do differently from what we're doing in city to city for the PDGA Tour here?
Great case study.
Because that's a huge crowd they draw.
Huge.
Their gallery is absolutely nuts. Are they putting up flyers around town?
Right.
Do they have billboards and radio advertisements?
Right.
Because that's what it's going to take.
We want the patron coming from outside of disc golf. I just saw something the other day when I was, and they were demonstrating, and I was just blown away by it. So let's go see this golf tournament for the day. I want to go watch these guys, see what that's all about. And that's where it's got to go. That's where it's got to build. When you're talking about explosions,
Yes.
you've got to. You can't keep
Expecting it to happen, huh?
well, not just
You gotta
expecting,
facilitate
yes,
it.
but you can't keep wringing out the same people for their dollars.
That's right. How much do you
Week in,
expect
week out, week in,
That's
week
right.
out, week in, week out. You got to expand this thing, and I think you've got to spend the dollar to make the three.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me that the Disc Golf Pro Tour should have some pretty good credit now to be able to go out there and
Yeah.
put the money that they need to put into this. I wanted to ask you again, going back to what we talked about on episode 1. This is episode 2.
Attention deficit disorder.
Yes, and
Got it right this time.
the reason I wanted to talk to you about these two particular discs carries in from, again, last week. My arm speed, I know it to be low 50s. And I can get as much distance. Now, I'm talking about this as a driver. Now, these are fairway drivers, but I'm talking about this is when I step on a tee, this is all I need, because at this point, 11 speed, sure I can throw it. 12 speed, sure I can throw it. I've even got the 14 speed Destiny in my bag from time to time, but I can absolutely chuck it. But I also, if I hit these on the right nose angle, go just as far. And they're flexing, and it's a beautiful flight. They're getting there slower, but they're but
they're staying in the air.
But they're staying in the air forever, and it's beautiful to see.
Well, that actually comes down to the rotations you're getting on the disc. If you were able to get the proper rotations on that 14-speed Destiny, it would go farther.
Sure.
But since you're in that 50-mile-an-hour zone, you're going to see that you're going to throw a jack just as far as a 12-speed.
Right. And I really want to drive that point home with people that this is the Jackalope from Mint discs. Probably one of the best feeling discs I've ever.
I think it's one of the best feeling, one of the best flying discs almost ever made.
Yeah.
I'll give it that. I think it's an incredible disc.
Yeah. Yeah. Well done, Mint, out of Austin, Texas.
Manufactured by MVP.
Yeah, this is one of the best discs you could have and should have in your bag if your arm speed is somewhere 50 and south. If you're a newer player, an older player, this is an absolute must-buy. Get it today. You can thank us tomorrow because you're going to throw it probably as far as anything else in your bag currently, I'm guessing. Or it's going to come within 10 or 15 feet from the furthest throwing one you've got, only because it really handles that particular speed well. So, and obviously a tour player, this would be a 50% speed type touchy shot or roller or something like that.
Well, I've got a pretty decent sized arm, and I would absolutely punch my Jackalope on a decent hyzer, and I can still get it 400 feet out.
It's incredible.
And it would just pop up and cruise right forever.
Yeah.
And you could really trust on it to even come back and skip a little bit.
So,
it is nothing but great things to say about how that disc flies.
Right. So recommendation 1 of the novice player, Jackalope from Mint.
Or even veteran, I would give it. I've been playing for about 7 years. I've got a couple of Eagles under my belt because of that disc. So
There you go.
Excellent distance driver, comparable to a Sidewinder for veteran arms, I would say.
I think it's just a lot of fun to play with. You can really get creative with this disc. And
You can, yeah.
it's really fun. It's just an all-around fun disc. Now, the Hatchet from Westside Discs is another good one. The numbers on this are 9.6, -2, 1, and the Jackalope is...
They call it a 9.5 -2.2, I want to say.
Yeah, okay.
And
so same 9 numbers.
yeah,
9.6, -2, 1. This thing is a bomber right out of the gate. Now,
Yeah.
it's got a lot more dome on it than the Jackalope. The Jackalope is a little flatter top than this. I do find that this floats better,
more glide.
more glide, and there's equal amount of flex,
Oh, turn.
I think. I just find that this doesn't come back, for me, as much as I can count on this to come back.
So are you seeing more distance because of the fade on that coming back at the end?
Yes, but yes.
Okay.
Distance that I can count on. And I want to recommend it only because I think it's an easy throw.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't require a big arm to get it out there 350 feet. It's a pretty easy effort at 50 miles an hour, and this thing is 350, no problem.
And it's historically a very popular disc too.
Yeah, so
We
it's
sell
been
quite
around a
lot of
while.
them out of here.
So again, I'm a novice. These are 2 discs that I've had in the bag, and I cannot recommend them enough to those of you starting out. As Jay says, even if you're a veteran, if you haven't thrown those 2 discs, give them a try.
Worth a try.
Yeah, give them a try. Well, it was fun.
That was fun.
Episode 2 in the books.
Next week,
Oh, we were going to do a giveaway.
let's do a giveaway. Should we walk around the store?
Okay.
Well, I could give away a Prodigy disc, but I don't have any new stuff in stock. I would like to, just because to honor Isaac Robinson, but I don't have any Isaac Robinson discs. So I think maybe we should go this way. Ooh, well, this would be a cool disc, because this disc you can't really get anywhere outside of a Dynamic Disc store. We're in Dynamic Disc Phoenix right now, so I think that's a pretty special disc. This is a Fusion Orbit Judge. This is one of the more popular putters that we sell out of here. It's got a big bead on it. People use it for upshots and for putting, I notice. Quite a lot of people buy multiple plastics of it because they bag their putters and their throwing upshot putter.
Okay.
This is just a cool disc.
Awesome.
How
So
pretty is that?
what should they have to do to win it?
Well, I think we should have some. We'll have to give it away on some kind of social media platform, right?
So they
How do you get in
like,
contact?
follow, share on our Instagram page,
I think that would be the smart play.
and then we'll do one of those random
Yep, and then we'll generate
computer generated.
out of the comment section.
Right. So like, follow, and tag a friend to.
Get a chance at a free frisbee.
We'll put that picture of that frisbee up.